Hello everybody and welcome to the video. So this is going to be the third in the Back to Basics series. Now, we looked first at enlightenment, the thing we want to achieve in Advaita Vedanta or non-duality, kind of disappearance, the letting go of the separate self and realizing that you are this non-dual reality, the ground of everything. And we looked at Advaita Vedanta, a bit of its history and some of the concepts. I just made a video this weekend about how I think concepts are okay to talk about. Somebody put a great comment saying that concepts are a great tool, but a terrible master. So that's a good thing to keep hold of. Another person said that don't get too involved in the concepts, which is also true. You know, we use a thorn to remove a thorn, and then you throw both thorns away. You don't build a structure with the thorns and start worshipping the thorns. So that's just a warning first. Now, here are some ways that you can, the basic ways that we get into exploring non-duality, really, to try to make it real, to realize its truth. I'll give some honorable mentions at first. First of all, some people do say there's nothing that can be done. It's all from kind of a point of view of Tony Parsons, Neo-Advaita. Nothing you can do. There's no, even the search itself is wrong. And then you've got Michael Singer, which is more like everything is the universe doing it, and you realize that you're not the doer, and there's nothing. You're just an observer, and that's the kind of way of letting go of the separate self. And then we've got the what's his name? Ramesh Balsekar, where he says it's all God, it's all God's will. So even your interest in this stuff is God's will, and really it's all going to be God's will anyway. I quite like the idea that you can do stuff. Klein said that you stand on the threshold and then you're taken by grace to enlightenment. So we can do stuff so far. And this video is about the basic things that we can do. Some more honorable mentions, maybe not Advaita Vedanta or non-duality. I think they are, though. I think they're at least non-duality. Eckhart Tolle is really good. I think he's really good way into this stuff, which is basically being present. Mindfulness is also similar, being in the present, because this is what's important. The mistake we make is thinking that we're a separate self that you have to manipulate and has to do things, and that's what you get afraid of, what's going to happen to it in the future, when really we have to explore what's here. And Eckhart Tolle, he goes into the power of now and about presence. So presence, the good thing about the word presence is it's both consciousness and being. So it's two of the three things of Brahman, which is Sat, Chit, Ananda, consciousness, existence as consciousness, and bliss. So being, knowing, and joy, a quiet joy, or as Rupert Spira says. Now, so it's got that. Presence is not only being here, but it's also this consciousness. And realizing that the moment, that now, is what is really here and the only thing that exists. So you let go of the future and you let go of the thoughts of the past, and thoughts are kind of the problem. And because of that, you let go of the narrative of the separate self and you just exist in the present. And this is a similar approach in some Zen, I'm going to say approaches again, unfortunately, where it's all about suchness, the isness of the moment. And this is what mindfulness goes into. Then, of course, we have meditation, which yoga and meditation is more about stilling the mind. And some non-dual teachers, Advaita Vedanta teachers, say that stilling the mind isn't enough, because you still the mind and you have the most still mind, which is completely non-dual experience, but it's still an experience. And then the experience ends. And that's not really what we're looking for. We're not looking for something that comes and goes. We're looking for understanding the truth, getting rid of the ignorance, and living in peace. This quiet joy that we mentioned before. Now, so there's also all the Buddhism. So honorable mention to Buddhism. It's slightly different to Advaita Vedanta. So both of them have Advaita Vedanta, actually a lot of this analysis that it has, Advaita Vedanta is the path of knowledge, jnana yoga. So there's a lot of analysis, also studying texts and things like that. But this analysis, a lot of it comes from Buddhism. So the idea of neti. So neti is the basis of a lot of Advaita Vedanta's inquiry, is basically that neti means not this, not that, or not that, not this, not this. And in Buddhism, they do this. They go through, well, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not the consciousness even. And you find that everything's empty of inherent existence. Now, the difference with Advaita Vedanta is they say the same thing. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not this, I'm not this. That's the first neti. It's not the neti. That's the first neti. I'm not any objective thing in the world. And then, so you're left with, well, I'm nothing then. And the second neti, not that either, because there's something here. And you can't even say there's something here. You have to say there's a no thing here, or something like that. But it's the ultimate subject, and the ultimate subject can never be objectified, because then it becomes an object. But yes, so in Advaita Vedanta, they think there is a self. Once you remove everything that you think you are, that you mistake yourself to be, then you are left with what you really are. And that's the self, the Atman, and Atman is Brahman. So that's the teaching that comes from the Upanishads, that this thing that you are, that when you've removed everything else, the thing that's still here, after you've peeled the onion, that is the ultimate reality. Okay, so first some of the big hitters. We've got, first I'll just mention Rupert Spira. Rupert Spira came from direct path, more analytical, and he's moved towards what he calls the pathless path, which is very similar to the Zen and Eckhart Tolle, where you rest in awareness, basically. You abide in being. You sit there, or you do whatever you want to do, and you notice how you're grasping. You want to be something different, and you let go of that, and you just rest in the present. So it's another way of resting in the present. Eckhart Tolle rests in the present often you can access it through the body, is one way. So that's Rupert Spira's most recent and he's getting more religious, more devotional. It seems to me that way anyway. Okay, so now we've got Nisargadatta Maharaj, my favorite really. And the idea is you rest in the felt sense of I am. You stay with this feeling of I am. You can deny everything. Anything else exists, but I am. This is the main thing here. So you rest in that feeling of I am, and eventually that dissolves, and you're left with the true, what you really are. And that is the no thing, the ultimate reality. Now we've got Ramana Maharshi, which is a bit more analytical. Maybe it's not analytical, but you have to stay with the I thought. So the idea is that the ego is a bunch of thoughts that claim ownership. So you do something and you say, and the ego, or part of your mind, it's not really an ego, it's just a bunch of thoughts. You have a thought that says, I did that. And then you have something and it says, that's mine, or that's not mine. So it gives this sense that you are this thing here, this separate thing. And that's where all the suffering comes from, because you're separate and vulnerable. And so the idea with Ramana Maharshi is you just stay with that I thought and you look for it. And you just can't actually find it, really. And when you realize that there's no I thought, because all other thoughts have this I element in them, once that's gone, it's like you're letting go of the strings that hold the balloons. So all of these thoughts drift off and you're just left with this open awareness. The thing that is everything. Okay, good. So then we go into the more classical Advaita Vedanta, which has got many, many tools for finding what you are, it has some which is discernment between the seer and the seen. So you say with everything, you start with a book. Now the book, I'm looking at the book, so I'm the subject and that is the object. And then your body, well, my body, although it's holding the book, the body is the subject and the book is the object, but my eyes are the subject looking at the body. The body's not looking at me. So my eyes are the subject. Then you think about the eyes. So the mind is the subject and the eyes are the object. And then you see your thoughts arising and you say, oh, well, I am observing the thoughts arising. Then I am the subject and the thought. So the mind is also the object and you're the subject. And then you get back to a blackness. And that blackness, you say, well, I'm observing the blackness. So the blackness is the object, and I, the thing that cannot be found, the ultimate subject, is what you really are. And this is like when you're in a dream. You're not the person in the dream. You are everything in the dream, and somehow outside the dream. I mean, in a real dream, you are outside the dream. You're in your bed. But in this, you are no place and all places. So there is no... this is what you really are. This is the true self, the Atman. And according to the scripture, the Upanishads, Atman is Brahman, is the ultimate reality. Now then we have the changing and unchanging. So you are the thing that never changes, and everything else changes. You're definitely the thing that never changes. This bit I didn't get at first, but you can't be a thing that never changes, because let's see if I say it right, any change has to be noticed by something. And the thing that notices it is the unchanging. So that's the idea. Another one is you analyze the 5 sheaths of the body, the mind, the subtle body. So you go in that way, a bit like peeling an onion, and you find inside the onion there's nothing. And you think, well, yes, there's nothing, but there's still something here. That's the Atman. Then we have, you have the changing and unchanging. Yes, then you have the sentient and insentient. So you're sentient, everything else is insentient. You may say, well, but my friends, my people, other people are sentient, so that doesn't work. But I see the book isn't sentient, so I'm not the book. I'm the sentient thing here, but other people are also sentient, but you don't actually see their sentience. And it's not that they don't, they are there, people exist. But if you were reading their minds and experience their sentience, it would still be your sentience. So that's why the sentient is what you are, insentient is what you're not. And it all has this process of separating and then including. So there's many of those. There is also the Shavana Manana Nididhyasana. So you study the texts of the Upanishads and the Adi Shankara Charya. You reflect on them, and then you meditate so they become your felt reality. And that is the general process in Advaita Vedanta, how to approach these things. You study, you reflect on it, you ask questions, you sort out your doubts, and then when you've got it for sure, you just meditate in it and let it become reality. Right, so I think that's it. I'm sure it wasn't. I think there was something else I wanted to say. Yes. So then we come to the direct path, which is what we're studying. Now, so the direct path is still Advaita Vedanta. It's still a knowledge-based approach. It's you look directly at your direct experience. So it comes from Atmananda, Krishna, Menon, and Goode carried it on. And Rupert Spira was also direct path in the beginning, and probably a bit. He mixes it now, and Francis Lucille and Jean Klein, who I really like. So this direct path, you basically trace everything back to awareness. And you begin with the world, and then the body, and then the mind. And you can see that everything points back to awareness. And it's a kind of analytical approach, very precise and systematic, that you go through this. Many people say that, oh, I've been doing non-duality for years, and nothing's happened. I'm still miserable. And it should get rid of your misery. It should. You should feel better about things. If you're not, then you're probably not enlightened. Sometimes when I hear about enlightened people who are just talking about the dark night of the soul and how awful life is for them, I just think, you might not be enlightened. And I think sometimes we have these hidden assumptions that we haven't analyzed, we haven't looked at, and some of the approaches that are more like, you've already got it, it's already this, you are already Brahman, which is true. It doesn't really help us to go beyond the assumptions, beyond the things that make us unhappy, the feeling of division. And this is why, personally, I prefer this approach. But as I said in the beginning of the video, there are the warnings. In the end, it does get back to the original message of Eckhart Tolle, just being present. That's what the highest teaching, I think, at the end of it. Rupert Spira has, come to this after all of his direct path. And before that progressive path, meditation and study, that he's come to this now, seeing everything as God. And I think that to jump straight to that, I think we have to understand that he didn't go straight to it. And some people do, though. Some people do. Okay, so I hope that was understandable. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.